So I'm here today talking with Kara McGee, who's co-founder of IT firm Clear Summit. Uh, Kara, welcome, and can you tell me a little bit about what Clear Summit does?
Thanks. Yes, so we're a software development agency, engineering focused first. So, we do design and some consultation, but really our main focus is on high quality engineering for both mobile and web application products.
Can you give me an example of a typical project for you, if there is such a thing?
Sure. So we work with both enterprise and startup clients, but we often will, with our startup clients, we'll take them when they're sort of in a more ideas phase and help them work through a plan, which is something that we call a product appraisal process, and go through with requirement solicitation, features lists, user personas, some of those sort of basic things, and make sure that they're scoping out their project in a way that's going to yield them the sort of most bang for their bucks prior to even starting the development and design process. And then once we have honed in on what the product is actually supposed to be, then we'll start with a more sort of typical agile design and development process with them and take them all the way through to launch of an MVP, and then usually a V1 and some maintenance after that.
Okay, and what are some examples of what those particular products have been?
Sure. So we worked in tandem with Belkin on a smart water home system that they launched at CES a couple of years ago called Phyn, Phyn. And we acted as the developers for the mobile application for that, which was built in React Native, integrated with their hardware and backend engineers, and were partners with them along the way until they launched. But that relationship was for about 3 years.
Okay, and what are some of the reasons that a firm chooses Clear Summit to work with specifically?
So I think for us, it's a combination of things. One is that the company was founded by myself, who's a layperson, and an engineer. And so Shane's able to talk engineer speak, and I'm able to talk layperson speak. And so we can make sure that with the stakeholders that we're engaging with, that the communication and the trust is able to be built in a way that everybody's kind of comfortable in their own zone. We're also US based, so we are not sort of an anonymous firm that goes into the sort of black box of an army of developers, but we're a small team. And as a result, everybody that is on our team is really vested in the end product and having it be high quality and making sure that everything that we put out is what our client really needs it to be.
Okay, great. And I've been calling this series of interviews Pivot Power. So a lot of that's about change and impact and adaptation to the current crisis. So what are some of the pivots you've needed to make in your business?
So it hasn't been as shocking for us as it has been for a lot of other people, because we were a very remote and lean team in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But we did have office space and we had days where everybody would come in and do collaborative work. And there was a lot of in-person mentorship that was going on between the more senior engineers on the team. Also during that product appraisal process that I mentioned, that was usually done in person with a whiteboard. And, we got a lot of clients who valued the fact that we were located in Los Angeles. So as things have changed, we have found that our location being in Los Angeles is not as important, at least obviously not for in-person meetings.
Right.
Although I think that there are some cultural components of being in LA that if a client is in LA, they want that sort of common cultural context. So even if we're not meeting with them in person, there's still a sense of, especially with design, it's just a sense of aesthetics and general vibe that I think people tend to want to keep close to home. We've changed the way that we've done our business development. So instead of going and having a lot of in-person meetings and going to networking events and things like that, we've had to lean a lot more on email campaigns and a more SEO focused type of outreach to try to get new work.
And how have you handled the mentorship and collaboration pieces in a completely remote environment?
So it's evolved, but I would say not a huge amount because we have had people that were distributed all over the place. When we started this company, we were actually traveling at the time. So we've always wanted the people who work for us to feel like they have the freedom to work from wherever they want. It's an important part of our company culture in the first place. So having there be sort of no possibility of in-person mentorship, it has made us do a lot more regularly scheduled Zoom meetings and things like that. We're already doing this, but we're getting into it a little bit more, especially with some of the more junior people on our team, where we have a peer review process with the code, and then the ability for everybody to get together and talk about why certain things might fail, a test case here, those kinds of things.
What about your clients in terms of their pivots? What kinds of adaptations and pivots have you been helping your customers make?
So I think that people are starting to focus a lot more on efficiency of their business processes. One of the things that we have done with several clients is has been internal facing products for their own business. So they haven't been able to find an off-the-shelf SaaS solution for whatever it is that they do. So we are able to help them take what has been a sort of manual process and turn it into a digital process. And I think that the lack of in-person time has made making sure that you're organizing all of your processes as efficiently as possible paramount. So we've had people come to us where they've recognized that things that they used to be able to do by shouting across the room or whatever, they need to formalize that. They need to have everything lined up a lot better. And sometimes what that requires is a platform that's built custom for them.
Okay. Do you have a particular one in mind that you can tell me a little bit about?
So I'm trying to think of ones that we've completed that are similar to it, because we have people that come to us with their sort of ideas, but they're not hatched enough to be able to be a success story yet.
Sure.
But we do have a lot of companies that are using Google Sheets and Excel spreadsheets to manage processes. So Tune Registry, which is a company that I also co-founded with my Clear Summit co-founder, is that kind of solution for the business, for the music industry. So we took these manual processes inside of rights management for music and turned that into a software platform that automated a lot of those processes. So we are working with some prospects at this point that are looking for ways to get off of Excel and Google Docs and things like that, and have things that have a much more friendly user interface, things that they can perhaps let their clients log in and have a client-facing portal, as well as their own internal portal to manage the type of work that they're doing.
Okay. Well, so that kind of naturally leads into my next question, which is, obviously this is a really tough situation in human and economic terms, but what opportunities do you see for businesses to actually come out of this crisis stronger and in some way better than they were before?
I think that you have to cut the fat. I think everybody's had experiences of being in offices where people are just kind of showing up and not doing anything other than making sure their face is seen by the right people at the right times of day. And I think people are focusing more on what work really means and also on what home really means. So I see a positive outcome for this as people being able to manage their time better, because they are much more aware of what they're doing during the time that they're working. And I think that's a healthy evolution for sure. The other thing is, I think formalizing the digital aspect of things is helpful as well. People, um, I think instead of thinking about mobile and web applications as, I want to be the next Snapchat or I want to be the next Facebook, people are seeing it more as utilities that they can create and integrate into their business systems. So the ideas, I think, are becoming a lot more niche and focused instead of quite so like wide ranging.
Okay. So you also raised something interesting about the confluence of work and personal life when everybody's, kind of stuck at home. And I know you experienced that too, and you're also a relatively new parent. So tell me what it's been like to go from, I can work at home to I must work at home.
Right. So initially I was working at home anyway, but I had a nanny here at the house with me. And so she would have the baby. I'd be able to focus. I'd say, these are my core working hours because that's when I'm paying somebody else to take care of my kid.
Right.
And I was able to just kind of dig in and then log off and try not to go back to the computer unless the baby was asleep.
Right.
And since then, not only do I not have childcare, but my business partner and I are also co-parenting a child.
Yeah.
So we will literally do a handoff of the baby between meetings and go back and forth like that. So it's been pretty intense. We're definitely looking to move. We're currently in a room where we've got 2 desks and a kitchen and a baby swing and all of that. All the things you can't see.
All the things that the camera's not pointed at.
Exactly.
You should see my place. I'm getting ready to move.
Exactly. So you make those kinds of adjustments and turn the desk a different angle. And, but it's also been good as far as feeling like, at least I'm around my daughter more than I would be otherwise.
Yeah. So this is kind of a left field question, but I do also like to ask if you had any message for business people or just the world right now, if you could just sort of say anything out into the world, what would you want to convey?
No pressure, huh?
None at all. No.
One of the things that has happened as a result of this is I've actually gotten off of social media other than LinkedIn. And it has been because I found so much negativity to just be overwhelming and I needed to check out. And so, every person I talk to, though, I feel a sense of connection with them. There's a sense of common experience and shared experience that, most of the time when you go through hard times with people, it brings you closer together with them. I just really am hopeful that when the dust settles and some of the noise gets cleared out, that we're able to realize that we're bonding together more in general as a society and as a planet as a result of going through, this total shift of daily life all at the same time.
It is one of the most powerful shared experiences we've had in, a generation or two.
Yeah, for sure. Certainly within my memory. And I do remember 9/11. I was an adult at that point already. But it was just quick, and it was local. And so within a couple of weeks after that, people were figuring out what rebuilding looks like. And now we don't have any idea what rebuilding is going to look like. No. So it's a good opportunity too. As far as for us, one thing that we've done internally recently that I thought was a really interesting exercise was going through and trying to understand why we do what we do. Because, when you own your own business, there's usually 2 components of it. One is that you want the independence of working for yourself, and you hope you make some money while you're doing it. And then the other is that there's this other component of wanting to create something or be something or provide something or what have you. And for us, what we've honed in on, which is kind of interesting because we've been in business for 6 years and hadn't really focused in on it, but was realizing that there were a lot of people out there who wanted to build technology products who didn't know how to buy the right provider for that. We had people come to us repeatedly where they had hired these firms, most of which were overseas because they wanted to find something that was going to be really inexpensive, which is totally understandable. And they were wasting their money and they were wasting their time and they were wasting their ideas and creativity, which to me is more upsetting than watching people waste money and time. Sometimes that's kind of what you got to go through to learn the processes to get to the success part of the story. But to see ideas that never really got the TLC that they deserved because of the fact that the time and money was wasted. And so for us, I think having the ability to take a step back and try to really get to why we're doing what we're doing and realizing that, we're not a nonprofit, we're not serving meals to people, even though those are things that we like to put our time and energy to outside of our business. But we are really having a focus on providing something that is of value to people so that they are able to give their ideas they're just desserts,
So that a good idea doesn't get ruined by a bad implementation.
Exactly. Because I think that happens often and it's kind of tragic when it does.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I do think that because we've had to pivot our business development and sales efforts, it's required us to think more about those kinds of things for ourselves, I think prior to all of this, we were just kind of going on down the road and not pausing. But we've had to pause because we had to take a totally different approach.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And it's actually one of the reasons that as a messaging guy, I'm finding myself busier than ever now is when sales either just come or when there's sort of enough fish out there that somewhat random spearing will get you, what you need, then getting your purpose, which then derives into your message, super clear, it's still important, but it's not as economically vital, or as mission vital. But when you have to do things like shift to completely digital outreach, then having a really clear idea of who you're trying to reach and what you want to say to them requires you to have a clearer idea of who you are in the first place.
Exactly.
So, yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense that you've needed to go through this process.
I feel like that there's also been this sense of bonding with strangers via Zoom.
Oh, yes.
That has come into play. And I've noticed that I feel a lot more emotionally connected to people that I meet in forums like this.
Yeah.
That I never experienced before. I think some of it is because there's just like this natural human need for connection.
Yeah.
And so instead of finding it in the forums that we're used to finding it, we're adapting maybe on more of a species level kind of psychological evolution to be able to feel that kind of back and forth and connect in a way that it used to feel a lot more distant.
I've absolutely experienced that. I mean, of course, I've been talking to a lot of people in interviews like this. They're mostly people I didn't know before. Some of them are people that I knew, 10, 20 years ago, but in many cases they were strangers. And yeah, that sense of like, okay, I'm looking into your home and you're looking into mine, and we have this vulnerability and this shared thing that we're both trying to protect ourselves and our families and not die, and all of those things together. It definitely, I've had a sense of emotional connection with people I didn't already know that is unexpected and really pretty touching.
Yeah, I had a meeting with a potential client yesterday whose daughter was born 10 days after mine.
Oh, wow.
And those are conversations that you kind of avoid a lot of times under normal circumstances, especially as a woman. You want to like shield the fact that you have a kid sometimes from business conversations, just because there are implications and biases that could come into play. But there's no denying it when you're working with your kids screaming right next to you.
Yeah,
So
right.
you may as well get very real about it at that point.
Yeah. Or Stephen Colbert is doing his show and his dog gets loose from the minder and jumps up in his lap. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's definitely the world we live in. Yeah, I've had people, need to interrupt the business meeting to go top up the Cheerios for the kid, or as you say, just you hear the crying in the background.
Yeah, I'm not sorry to drop the facade on that.
Yeah, well, and I think it will affect those biases too. I mean, sometimes the armor needs to come back, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe it won't need to come back quite as often, because those prejudices will be affected by everybody having had those kind of experiences.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm happy to have dads with their crying kids in the background on my business meetings too.
Exactly. Yeah. I think I mean, I share your hope that something more, a kind of a more empathetic, human version of business and just sort of, humanity in general will come out of the shared experience. I don't know that it will, but I sure hope that it will. And there are experiences I've had that give me some hope.
Yeah, I really hope so. I don't want to get back to the way things used to be, in a lot of ways. I mean, I think things, as sort of diverse as the daily commute and kind of what that does to morale and the environment and all of that, and trying to figure out how necessary that actually is. And sometimes it is necessary, but it could also be accomplished through having everybody come together and reimagining what the workplace looks like. So that one company might use that space on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and another company might use the same space on Mondays and Fridays. And
after fumigation.
Hey man, it's a pretty good time to be in the cleaning business,
Yeah, that it is. Yeah, maybe it is necessary, but maybe it doesn't have to be 5 days a week.
Exactly.
I miss those in-person connections, but like you, I don't want to go back to exactly how it was.
No, not at all. I miss restaurants.
Oh God, yes. Restaurants.
Takeout is cold when you get it to your house. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, the pizza is not crispy. Broadway is dark. Yeah.
That's gotta be eerie.
Oh, that is eerie. That is really eerie. Yeah. I mean, it's really cool, all the things that people are doing online, but it's not what I came to New York for.
No, at least with LA, you still have the sunshine.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, well, good. I think we got, more of kind of the human part that's going to add some good, it's been great talking with you again. And
you too. Good luck with the move.
Oh, thank you.
I'm excited to see where you end up.
Yeah, well, so am I.